welcome back to another episode. Today we have Dr. John Jaquish. Welcome to the show, man.
Tyler, thanks for having me. This is fun. It's an honor.
Of course. Grateful to have you here. If you can, just kick us off. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
About 13 years ago, I developed a medical device that reverses osteoporosis. It works better than any drug that's ever been trialed. And I had a lot of interesting experiences, ventures in launching a medical device that had never been seen before, wasn't even like anything that was in existence. You're the first one to market with something nobody's ever seen before, and you get a lot of arrows in your back, a lot of critics, and a lot of critics that don't know what they're talking about. But fortunately, in medicine, when you can show the evidence, when you can show a clinical trial or evidence, even a large enough amount of anecdotal evidence becomes compelling. You have thousands of people using it, and I did. And so I ended up publishing a book called Osteogenic Loading, self-published that. And then I went and patented the device and launched it. And now that medical device is found at OsteoStrong locations exclusively. So it's a franchise clinic that you can find these devices at. Now, what was really interesting was the clinical trials for the first device brought me to my second invention, which was called X3. And so I realized, because people were dealing with such high forces in the positions they would naturally absorb a high impact force. So like where you trip and fall and protect yourself, those type of positions. So I looked at those positions and determined that those positions versus some of the weaker positions that we have to go through in a given like weightlifting movement, there's a 7-fold difference in people's output capacity. Meaning you're actually 7 times stronger than you think you are. You just choose a lower weight because you can deal with it. You can pick it up. You can deal with it in its more awkward position where the joints are compromised and you're not getting the muscle as short in its shortest position where it's most powerful. So I knew I had the information right in front of me in this clinical trial that weightlifting is really a lousy stimulus for triggering muscular growth. And I thought, wow, it's really kind of a waste of time, this weightlifting thing, because it's just such a poor stimulus for muscle growth. So I called my book, Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. And then, of course, I launched the product. Basically, the book goes over sort of the rationales of why I did what I did and what I learned from that process. And also, every single statement I make is backed up by clinical research that was not done by me. So it's like, this is knowledge that was out there. And once you piece it all together, the complete understanding of my approach to variable resistance, then the answers are obvious. And you know that because you read the book. Most people who just judge a book by its cover, which is most people, by the way, they think they know what the book is about and they have no idea. So they'll make a comment, like I'm advocating for cardio or advocating for high intensity intervals or whatever. And they don't know, what. So, and basically most of my critics are people who didn't read the book at all. Like they might've bought it. They didn't even open it up. And so, that's my.
And if it's the cardio critics, they didn't even read the subtitle, because isn't the subtitle "and cardio is too" or something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So right,
weightlifting is a waste of time, and so is cardio. There's a better way to have the body you want.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's really astounding how many people will judge a book by its cover. They will just read the cover, not even the whole thing, just the big words.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, though, from a marketing perspective, and I don't know if you did it purposely or not, I think the title kind of causes controversy, which I think is a good thing, right? Because even though, like you're saying, you have 25 currently, while we're doing this interview, 2,600 reviews, and you're still 4 something star, but anybody who's given you a low star probably has not.
Well, you read them and it just this book is a commercial for his products. And we talked earlier, like there's
Yeah.
no money in books anymore.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Like nobody writes a book to make money.
Yeah. Just
So
the
you're
book.
going to write, if you're going to bother to write a book, it's probably going to have some business model behind it. Like now is the, like, I think there in a 260 page book, there's 30 pages that discuss my second invention, the X3. And there's probably 2 pages that discuss my first invention. And then the rest of it is just summaries of scientific knowledge that will benefit everyone with the training, with the nutrition, with everything. So like people who complain about that, it's like it was hardly the push of the book, but there's a lot of knowledge in there that people don't have. And it's lived in research. A lot of it's lived in research for 40 years, but because people lack the ability to even read research, especially in the fitness industry, like physicians may understand, and sports scientists, like I was saying, you go to a sports science conference, you go to the annual congress of the American College of Sports Medicine, and you say cardio is a terrible way to lose weight, and every scientist there will be like, yeah, you're right. Terrible. Like it's the worst thing you can do is do, like daily cardio. But in the fitness industry, even though there's 40 years of research on this subject, they'll say cardio is for weight loss and strength is for muscle. Like,
so would you say on the cardio, because as a cardio person, and we were talking about this a little bit before too, so like doing so say you did an hour jog, or you did 30 minutes where it was like 1 minute sprint, 4 minutes slow walk. So you'd only get so you're getting 6 minutes in total of actual sprint in there. You would choose the second option would actually be better.
Absolutely. Yeah. Interval training, very different on the biochemistry. Like your total different hormonal profile. Like your blood will look 180 degrees opposite if you do interval training versus sustained elevated heart rate.
It's so wild. Yeah. And I remember from reading your book too, is that because it was 2 things. It actually boosts testosterone and human growth hormone by doing the like interval or like, and you say like you can't gain the one conclusion you come to in the book over and over again is you can't get there without heavy, right? And you keep coming back to that. And again,
there is no getting around heavy.
Yeah, no getting around it. And what's so wild is I remember too, and I don't know who I heard all this from, but there used to be this comparison of if you want to get ripped, you do high reps, low weight.
Yeah.
But if you want bigger muscles, you do high. Right. And so, dude, this is like, it's so crazy that I don't know. And your book too, it has, I can't remember exactly how many, but probably throughout your whole book, there's like 250 to 350 citations of research backing up.
So I summarize the research and I say, here's a study. And it's funny. There's not a single one of my critics that has found a problem with how I summarize any of those studies.
Yeah.
Not one. Yeah. Like people are complaining all the time, but it's like complaining about what they couldn't tell you.
Yeah. And I think even, I could be wrong on this, but in the book too, you even say like, look, because the way you built your band, the X3 bar, it's stronger than other ones, but there are other bars out there or whatever, elasticity bands. So it's like somebody could, if they already have them, they could try to do the X3 protocol with it, but it wouldn't give you the right amount of strength.
Yeah, you'd be dealing with weight that's so light that it's not going to trigger any growth.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. And also bands by themselves. Like sometimes we get emails, well, every day we get emails. People are like, I just want those really high density bands because they provide 600 pounds of force. Like the biggest one is 600-pound band. And I'm like, if you throw that around your back and try and do a push-up with it, you'll break both wrists. Like they're unusable by themselves without catastrophic injury. So you need the bar and you need to play. There's a reason I launched the whole system. It was just a matter of heavy bands. I mean, hey, I'd much rather be in that business because that business is cheap.
For sure. And then on your website too, you have a full protocol that goes along with it. So what I wanted to ask you too, actually, is about your Fortigen, because I don't know the science behind this. So you say your protein Fortigen, it's like it actually, the body takes in 80% of it, whereas other proteins only get like maybe 10% or something. So how does that work? It's like specific
No,
amino.
you get 100% of Fortigen.
Oh, okay, 100%.
Yeah, but like whey protein is in no any form of whey, even whey isolate, you're only getting 18% of it to be digestible by the body
Okay.
because it's the wrong amino acids ratios.
That's so
So
crazy. That's
yeah,
what's true.
I
Whey
mean,
protein's everywhere.
steak is only 38%.
Yep, I remember that now in the book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, Fortigen was a huge benefit.
Okay. And that's
Yeah,
your current diet to this day. It like carnivore diet, right? Is that what you
well, I get
said?
the majority of my nutrition from Fortigen. So
Oh,
I only
Fortune.
take one supplement. That's
Okay.
it. And I take a lot of it. I take 4 doses a day on training
Okay.
days. Yeah.
Would you recommend, or is that because of like how much you're, well, it's not even how long, right? Because it's 10 minutes. That's what's so funny about this.
Yeah, it's a short workout.
Yeah.
I work out 1 hour a week. I work out 6 days a week, 10 minutes of workout. So an hour a week.
It's amazing. And
Mhm.
then, so it's the Fortigen, 4 scoops, and then what, like a steak or something like that every day, or sometimes not
You
even.
broke up a little bit. Say it again.
You do Fortigen, 4 scoops a day, and then steak is like a steak as well.
Yeah. And then just a steak, at the end of the day. I
Okay.
consume all my nutrition in a 4-hour eating window, and then I'm dry fasted for 20 hours. So no food,
Okay.
no water for 20 hours every day.
Why the dry fast? Is it much better than having water in there?
Oh yeah, because you're at a caloric absence.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, there's caloric deficit, but absence is really where your body kind of has two modes. It's the fasted mode and the fed mode. And basically you're only metabolizing your own body fat when you run out of the food you consumed. I mean, that
Mhm.
seems obvious. So like there's people out there that are like, well, fasting doesn't work. And it's just like any fat loss is because of a fasted state. If you're at a caloric deficit, you just go into a fasted state earlier.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it just like it's funny because there's so many people that are in denial about
Yeah.
of like the fasting research, and it's overwhelming. It's
Mhm.
better, and it's not like calorie restriction doesn't work. You can do both at the same time. Like when I eat, so I'll eat like 1 pound of steak, or maybe even like a pound and a half, maybe. Like I got to be really motivated to do that.
Yeah.
But when I eat that, I'm still at a caloric deficit because I burn over 3,000 calories a day. I'm 240 pounds, 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
So, that's a massive deficit. And I continue to get stronger and build muscle doing this, which seems to defy the laws of physics, but it doesn't defy the laws of a hormonal system, which because I'm training so heavy, I have more testosterone receptor site activity. And like people who lift weights think they train heavy. No, you don't train heavy with weights, not compared to what you can do with variable resistance. So like when I'm using the X3, I do a chest press. At the top of the chest press, I'm holding 550 pounds. And I'll get to that 20 or 25 repetitions. So I get
Yeah.
the benefit of going to fatigue with 550 pounds 20 times. And that's just like weight that's like unheard of. But it's only at that weight in that position of almost full extension. You never go to full extension.
Okay. Yeah.
So basically, we're using a greater amount of force because the force is matched to your capacity in your position. I know it sounds complicated, but when you use it, it's like the easiest thing in the world to use. There's 4 movements per workout. So that's why it's over in 10 minutes. You only have to do 4 things.
Yeah.
And right. And then, you're absolutely, each muscle is absolutely devastated, but there's no soreness because of the variable resistance, because we're offloading where joints get damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, you receive no muscle damage, no joint damage. And damage is actually inversely related to growth. So, you hear people all the time who talk about muscle growth. I mean, mostly it's sort of the Dunning-Kruger principle, where the dumbest people have the strongest opinions. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
Yeah, the dumbest people in society have the greatest belief that they are the most competent.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That would
it
make
explains a lot of political conversation.
Yeah, that's exactly where my mind went to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I mean, like you hear somebody who's just so passionate about an issue and they're like 100%, and you're just sitting there going, you don't understand, like, you don't even have like a sixth grader's understanding of economics.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
I
fascinating.
read something this morning that came out of the mouth of the White House press secretary. Like, she has the economic understanding of like a 3-year-old.
Yeah.
I can quote what she said because I remember it. She
Okay.
said it's absolutely disgusting and absurd that companies would raise the prices to consumers as a response to an increase in taxes. So
I
are
don't,
all these companies supposed to go out of business just because that's the righteous thing to do? Like,
yeah.
this woman has no idea how anything works. This is an adult child.
Hmm.
Right. So anyway, back to
Agree.
Johnny Kruger, I mean, like
Yeah, no, no, I
that's
agree.
kind of the push, where I am with Johnny Kruger. Like, I think it's the best study. Anybody who hasn't read that study, even if you don't like reading studies, this one is hilarious because it explains that the smartest people in society undervalue their competence. So, like, the smartest people believe they were like 90 to 95% competent in complex tasks and puzzle solving. Because
Yeah.
the more the more you don't know.
100%.
Right.
Yep.
But stupid people don't know what they don't know.
Hmm.
And therefore it is non-existent. So what they don't know doesn't exist. Therefore, they think they know everything. And this is the majority of commenters on the internet. This is people who love commenting on social media, especially like, fitness, nutrition. Like, it's just like the blind leading the blind. Like, they
Yeah.
have no idea what they're talking about.
This explains a lot, I will tell you.
Yeah.
And I'm actually always
Yeah. I mean, this explains why, like, from a political perspective, like, I'm all for freedom of speech, but of course, right now we only have freedom of speech that goes on one side.
Yeah.
But like, in a way, you should only let experts comment on a lot of these subjects. Like, I kind of understand Facebook's position when they're trying to limit some comments. And like I said, they only do it on one side, which is unfortunate. But when somebody says something stupid on the other side, that should be deleted too. Because when you're the White House press secretary and you don't understand how, like, the monetary system in any country works, that's kind of terrifying. Like, this woman gets to talk to the president every day. What's she saying? Does he believe it? Does he have an equal lack of understanding? I'm afraid the answer is yes. I'm afraid he has no idea.
It's not even funny either. It's really not. I laugh out of confusion because I
Yeah.
sometimes I wonder if I'm like, it gets to a point. I don't know if it's like a mental breakdown, but just like I just am confused as to like, where are we? What is going on?
Yeah.
Like, for me, one of the simplest things is like raising the corporate tax rate. I just personally, and look, I'm not an expert in this stuff, but to me, just logically, it's like, look, if you want people, more business, more employees, like more people to come to this country and create opportunity, I don't think the way of doing that is upping the corporate tax, because then the smart, they just leave and then there's no job.
Yeah. Use California as an example. Like,
So it's like,
Hewlett Packard left, Tesla left.
yeah.
There's another massive company that left California. I just can't think of the name of it. My point is, like, I mean, this is like billions and billions of dollars that are never going to come to the state of California.
Mm-hmm.
And California still thinks it should raise taxes, even though these companies left because of the taxes.
Yeah.
Like,
I just
Yeah,
don't.
how long do you need to keep making the same mistake before you learn from it? And like, yeah, I have friends that vote in California, and even though they're so frustrated, they're gonna just go ahead and vote for the same clowns again who
Yeah.
don't understand anything. And I mean, maybe it's just like emotional, like, they just can't bring themselves to
Well,
vote for like
okay.
a businessman.
So
I
let's
don't
talk about that because I think it is emotional because I don't know if you saw it was one of Biden's last speeches. I think it's the way that they position it, and people again, like you were saying, they don't do the actual research. So what I've come
know.
to find is there's a lot of people that they can only think on like a surface level. They'll never like go down a couple layers to like get to the bottom of it. So Biden in a speech is like, we're sick and tired of these big corporations like Amazon and stuff not paying their fair share. So we're upping the corporate tax. It's like, dude, that doesn't even hurt them. It hurts
Right,
the middle class guy who's doing from like 1 to 10 mil a year or whatever, or
right,
in that's who it's hurting, and that's your
right.
American like small business.
Right.
So, but people are
Like
like, yeah,
Amazon will just move its corporate operation to Aruba.
exactly.
Its headquarters will be like, a broom closet in a lawyer's office. And then
Mhm.
they just get to keep on going, and they'll probably pay even less taxes.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. The guy who's like the CPA who's working day and night to provide for his family, that's a guy that gets screwed.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's just fascinating. You got to go a couple layers deeper is what I'll say. But that study that you spoke about, that explains a lot. I'm actually
Mhm.
happy I heard that. So it helps me
Well,
sleep.
here's what I tell people, and this is kind of like, my message outside of my fitness messaging. Do not listen to internet commenters. Like, you can just run an experiment for yourself. Pick a product, anything, not something you like. Just when you're scrolling through Facebook, just click on an ad of something that you're not in the market for. That way, your emotions are not tied to reading these answers, reading the comments, and you'll see people who will snap to judgment and make a comment with absolute certainty, and they absolutely don't even know what they're looking at.
Hmm.
And it's just like, and this is like, at first, like, I was getting, all kinds of crazy trolls, and I got shitty reviews on the book, and I kind of like scratched my head, like, why would somebody do this? Like, they don't even know what they're talking about. And I realized, oh, most of the people who are zealous about posting their sort of analysis and their take on a scientific text can't even read it. They're incapable. And the fitness industry, I think, is worse than even politics, because when I look at where most fitness information is, it's on YouTube. Why? Because a lot of fitness fans are illiterate.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we still have something like a 15% illiteracy rate in this country. I mean, how that's possible, I don't know.
Oh my
But
God. 15.
like, I see a lot of really, like scuba diving is a rich man's sport. It's expensive, and you're not going to get dummies that scuba dive. Otherwise, they'll be dead scuba divers.
Yeah.
You've got to pass a hard test to get your scuba diving license.
Yeah.
And otherwise, there'd be just like, just a couple of tanks sticking out of the water and somebody face down connected to them.
Yeah.
You can't be dumb and scuba dive,
Yeah.
but you can definitely be profoundly stupid and be all about fitness. And you go into the gym and you wear your hat sideways and have your big fat gut sticking out and tell everybody you know everything, and still continue to be obese and have baby arms, and I mean, it's just, the whole industry is just so like mind-blowingly bad at doing really anything scientific or right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think I'm a huge disruptor. I'm more of a disruptor in fitness than I was in medicine, because what I loved about bringing out my medical device is, once you show the physicians the evidence, they're like, wow, this is great. This is going to help so many lives. Thank you for coming out with this. And I kind of like, I'm still the chief science officer of Osteostrong, but I'm kind of like not all that hands-on every day. And I don't need to be, because now that physicians understand it, it kind of feeds itself.
Yeah.
Like enough physicians are like, oh no, I read that research, and they tell their peers. And so some of the doctors, they're like, yeah, I haven't read any of the documentation, but I know that the endocrinologist down the street refers all her patients, so I'm going to refer you. So yeah, like it was great. But the problem with fitness is what I'm presenting is complex enough. I don't think it's that complex. I mean, I think if you graduated from the 5th grade, you'll
If you
understand.
read the book, it's not.
Yeah, you read it's not a hard book at all.
Yeah.
But it's also not, like a comic book.
No, it's very
Right.
much like research based. Like you definitely like
Yeah, it's a research-based book.
so I enjoyed it, but I could see how some people, if they needed more, like, I don't know, like, although no, you do actually have because I wanted to touch on that, like the story of Osteostrong is because of your mom, right? Your mom was having some, that's what it was. Right?
Yeah. The whole reason I got into physical medicine and rehabilitation is my mother. Yeah, she was diagnosed with osteoporosis, and she was just prescribed bisphosphonate drugs, which have a lot of side effects, and she didn't want to take them. And I read the side effects, and I'm like, yeah, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want these side effects either. And so I said, let me look into this. And as I looked into it, I was like, I have an idea. I want to emulate high impact, because we know high impact forces have the strongest influence on bone. In fact, some could argue that high impact forces are the only thing that has influence on bone, because there's plenty of research studies that show like physical activity, the kind of physical activity that a 60-year-old woman would engage in will have no effect on bone density at all, because the minimum dose response for the bone to change in your hip joint, and that's the most important joint in the body when it comes to bone density, is 4.2 multiples of body weight.
Oh wow, so you need a lot. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, like nobody's lifting that at the gym.
No.
I mean, let alone postmenopausal females, who are the
Yeah.
ones who have this problem, the majority of them. I mean, it does affect some men, 1 out of 5 men, 3 out of 5 women.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was just like, wow, it takes that much force. And then that's what got me down the path of like, God, like strength training and fitness are just like, I understand the sport of powerlifting and the sport of weightlifting. Like that I get it. But it's the fitness training methods that are like, and even of the power lifters they're just kind of doing the same thing. And it's like, that's an inefficient way to get stronger. So why wouldn't you do a more efficient way if you know about it? And it's probably because even though they know there's a book called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time and they've thumbed through it, they don't really understand. And maybe they can't take the time. But I'm also of the opinion it's like they can't take the time, but really they just can't. Like they can't understand it. And it was interesting when I launched the company, and I totally did this with a book too. I launched the company, we started targeting like fitness and bodybuilding audiences. And it was like people were just responding so poorly, just like insults. You should kill yourself. This is dumb. This is BS. Or like an insulting paragraph about how, like this is wrong because, they come up with some non-scientific justification. Like it's not what, Arnold did or whatever. Of course, Arnold was a bodybuilder like 40 years ago. Of course he didn't do that. This came out like 3 years ago. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, and it's like every other word is misspelled.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And, I just like, I'm just blown away. Like, wow, this is what I'm dealing with in the fitness industry. Medical is so much easier because you just own the evidence. Like, who would have thought it's easier to sell something to doctors than it is to bodybuilders? And it's because doctors can learn, bodybuilders can't. Now, I shouldn't generalize, like obviously there's something to do.
For sure.
But we pivoted and we started targeting busy professionals, because busy professionals are not stupid. And the good part about not being stupid is that if you go to a gym and you're going 2-3 years in a row and you're not seeing any results at all, you're either going to look for a different program or you're just going to stop and say, maybe I'll go back when there's something better, but this isn't working. Like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, but I don't have the time to figure it out. Of course, they read the book and they're like, oh, like this is what I was missing. This makes perfect sense. Like now I can look like a pro athlete. And then of course, also something completely unknown to people. What's the biggest, I'm going to test you now.
Okay, I'll try. All right.
Are you ready for this?
See how much I comprehend.
All right.
Here we go.
So the biggest genetic determining factor for athletes, like we all went to high school with a person who like there was a guy in my high school. He mowed lawns one summer and put on 30 pounds of muscle. The guy looked like he had the body of like a 25-year-old professional bodybuilder when he was like 16. And it didn't matter what he did, he would just grow. And so he and I would work out together. And then at some point I just couldn't work out with him anymore because he was too strong. And so what's the biggest genetic determining factor? And here's a hint. It's towards the end of the book.
Towards the end of the book. So wait, what I remember the most is the testosterone and human growth hormone as being.
Yeah. It's not a biochemical.
Oh, okay. So it's something else. Oh shit. I'm going to fail this test. You got to tell me.
So I mean, and I cover this kind of at the end, and I think people are kind of tired maybe when they get to the end of the book, and they're like, well, I read a lot of science. It's like I think it's beer 30. So
I did read it all in one day, so I would advise maybe chunking it.
Yeah,
a little,
but here's the biggest difference. The biggest determining factor is where your tendons connect to your bone. So everybody has the same origin of muscle. So like I don't know how many people watch this podcast versus listen to it, but if you're watching, I'm sticking my left arm out. And so I'm pointing at my pectoral. Now my pectoral inserts at the sternum in the middle of my chest. That's its origin. But then it's insertion. Actually, the insertion is where the other end of it. So it goes over here and then it attaches at my humerus bone, like right here, like right at the beginning of my bicep. But some people have a mutation. So their tendon attaches over here, close to the elbow. Now, what is this difference right here between the beginning of the bone and the end of the bone? It's a lever. So, and on top of that, not only do you have the advantage of a lever, which is going to reduce the perceived amount of weight on the muscle, so you can contract the muscle harder and grow faster. Not only that, but the tendon is elastic. In fact, when you sprint, 17% of your energy is recycled from the last stride because your Achilles tendon snaps back into position. You don't even have to put energy into it. It is like free energy.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And this happens all over the body. It's easiest to study with a toe strike and sprinting because you can see the thing just snap right back into position.
Yeah.
So what we're looking at here is some people have a mutation where they have the longer lever, and that lever is made out of elastic material. So it wants to spring back to a fully contracted position. So these individuals have two mechanisms in the body that put them at a massive advantage for contracting muscle in a better way than the rest of us. And this is like 1% of the population, or 1/10 of 1% of the population, maybe. It's rare. But these are the people who get an NFL contract. These are the people who almost like no matter what they do, grow. And they can do stupid workouts. They can do workouts that should injure most people, and they just grow muscle.
Yeah, I know a guy here like that in Miami.
Everybody knows a guy like that. Like it's just, and I think it's like 1/10 of 1% of the population that just has this, and it just doesn't matter what the hell they do. And so with variable resistance, with the way, especially high ratio variance, which is what I'm doing. You take that advantage and you make it irrelevant. So now everybody can grow like the NFL player. You still got to eat the right stuff.
Yeah.
You still got, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, and you need quality protein sources. So no vegetable protein sources; those are worthless. About 9% usable. Most vegetables are, and the other 91% goes through you in the form of nitrogen waste.
So you're not a pea protein fan?
Nah, that's garbage.
I know. Yeah. So, and you don't eat any vegetable, right? Like no vegetables?
No, don't eat vegetables. Really don't worry about my vitamins. Probably some of the worst recommendations in medicine today are the vitamin recommendations, mostly because they're based on expert opinion, no studies whatsoever, from the 1950s. So, and of course, if you were to get all your vitamins in one day and you had no supplementation and you just had to eat food, you'd need to eat 27,000 calories a day to get all your vitamins. Also, you'd have to fly in your calories from every corner of the world. Right. So did people ever eat like that? No, they never ate like that. In fact, a rhino doesn't even eat like that. Yeah. So like the whole vitamin recommendation is just a joke. Do you need vitamin C? No, you don't. I haven't had anything other than meat, and God, it's been like 5 years now. No vegetables, no fruit. Isn't it weird I don't have scurvy?
Yeah. That's
so scurvy comes from having oxalates without vitamin C. In fact, let's look at what the word antioxidant means.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay.
It's fighting with something. It's an antioxidant. So why are you oxidizing? Well, because you eat oxalates. What are oxalates? It's a low-grade poison that's put in every plant to keep you from eating it. I think a deer is 30,000 times more resistant to oxalates than a human.
That makes sense.
So certain animals are oxalate resistant. We're not. That causes inflammation. And all sugar comes from plants. So the Western diet is 70% plant-based, and people are like, well, there people aren't eating 70% vegetables. I'm like, no, but a Twinkie's plant-based. Where do carbohydrates come from? And this is one of the problems with veganism is Nabisco knows that vegans aren't eating kale. They're eating cookies and cake, but it just happens to be cookies and cake that don't use milk and eggs. So, there's a $1 trillion industry in peddling them foods that they think are healthy because they just don't have animal products in them. And it's an emotional play. So these snack food companies know there are trillions of dollars to be made by selling them what they think they want and what they think will make them healthy. Of course, veganism is going to go down in history like anorexia and bulimia. It's just an eating disorder based on grotesque misinformation. But here we are. We're still sort of living in the tidal wave of the misinformation, and the better information hasn't really come up yet. But the harder they push, vegans are trying to make meat illegal. I don't know if you're following this story at all.
Oh, well, isn't that meat? It's part of the carbon tax and stuff. Because apparently, I don't know the whole thing.
Yeah, and I mean that's just completely silly. I mean, what do plants live off of? Carbon. So we want to limit carbon. Okay. You sure that's bad? Yeah. I mean, no, they don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, does carbon damage the ozone layer? No, not at all. Other things do. But yeah, I mean, like the science, and I almost feel like governments are overusing the word science. I don't almost feel this way. I definitely feel this way.
They are.
Overusing the word science, maybe in relation to a pandemic, overusing the word science, and they're just lying their asses off and saying, well, this is the science, except the people who can read the science are like, no, this is the opposite of the science.
Yeah.
This is completely 180 degrees away from the science. Like, there's a meta-analysis that shows that masks do nothing to stop viral infection. They were made to keep a surgeon from sneezing into an open wound and putting mucus out there. So it's just to keep a barrier between you and or you cut into an artery by accident and it sprays in your face. Probably better somebody's blood doesn't get in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, like, that's what those masks are for.
Yeah, man, it blows my mind when I'm down here. I live in Miami, and like it'll be, it was just August, people running. Now Florida is way better than most other places, but there's still people outside.
I was there for the New Year.
Oh yeah, really?
I did my New Year's Eve in Miami.
Nice. Yeah, man. It's amazing here. And people are running outside with masks on. They're like by themselves, isolated, running with a mask, and like that's
other than in like being an impingement on your breathing, you're doing nothing. Like, absolutely zero. Also, masks need to be kept sterile. So like after they touch your face, they go into the trash. If you keep one in your pocket, you're completely defeating the purpose. Like, it doesn't make any sense at all. They go from the dispenser to your face to the trash. And we're like reusing.
Yep. And you got the double, triple. And I think, well, what they do too, like in politics, it seems like their go-to is like they'll just say something and then they'll just say, trust the science. Right. But and
there's no science involved at all, or it's the opposite.
Yeah, it's like Fauci, I remember he said something like, it's so ridiculous. He was just like, so, one mask is good, but like, like 2 masks would be like better, like that would be better. And like,
he got like scientists attacked him for that, just like, because he has no evidence to say that it's going to do anything. And actually, there's no evidence of even one mask doing anything. And here's the best part. It says it right on the box of the mask. Like, this will not prevent virus contact. It says it on every box of every mask company that it will not protect you.
Yeah.
Yet this is like a law in like California and in a bunch of different states.
The bright
in fact, listen to this. If you just post a photograph of the box of one of those masks, just a photograph with a warning saying it will not stop viral infection, that's not the intention of these masks, you'll get kicked off of Facebook.
Really? Just by that?
Oh yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. That's hey, we live in clown world.
Yeah, we really do.
That's as clown world as it gets. Like, just unbelievable.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. I forget what I was gonna say, but if it comes back to me, I'll let you know. So I agree where I'm like dumbfounded by this stuff. I want to remember what it was. It was something again with Fauci, but
and he flip-flopped on like everything.
Yeah.
The dude has changed his mind, and he keeps saying science, and it's like, well, it was science yesterday when you had the opposite opinion, but is it science today now that you've completely changed your position?
Yeah.
Well,
no,
he's Time Magazine's Person of the Year, but so is Adolf Hitler. Let's keep that in mind.
Great point.
The press has done an abysmal job of picking winners. Like, traditionally, like, they don't know, like, a lot of people who were considered the bad guy ended up being the real hero, and the people who they considered the hero, were really the bad guy.
Yeah, and this is actually what I was going to say. The only bright side I see to this is for people like you and I that I think, more entrepreneurial mindset. there's a lot of opportunity, more than I've ever noticed in my entire life, because there's a lot of people. I'm not quite sure how to help everybody, but like there's a lot of people that need, like, for
This is such a great question. Like, how do we get past the educational barrier? Now, I got good news for you. The people who are out there producing, I mean, this is getting, I'm not necessarily politically like this. Like, I think we need social programs, and fire and police are great, and we need to help out the poor people. Like, I'm very balanced in my opinions of politics. So I'm not on either side. I think both sides have terrible ideas, basically. But what I will say is, past schooling, and there's even some questions about schooling today, but past schooling, the only way you really learn anything, unless you are seeking knowledge, is via product marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And like when people find Fortigen, they start learning about how much protein they need, and they realize how important that is. And they're like, wow, I need a gram per pound of body weight. Like, and this Fortigen is like so easy. It's 4 calories per serving. 4 servings, I get the equivalent, the value. It's most important to point that out. The value of 200 grams of protein just from this stuff. Like, for a vegan, like, they can take care of their protein requirements and grow as much muscle as they possibly can and continue to be vegan, which, again, I recommend against. But if they have their convictions, okay. So I have a vegan following, even though I tell people don't be vegan. I have a vegan following that is really excited about eating the bacterial fermentation, which is what Fortigen is made out of. It's not plant, it's not animal, it's bacteria. And so they consume this, and now they've solved their largest nutrition problem. They still need B12 supplementation. And that's basically about it. And then, you can eat cardboard past that and you're great.
And is B12 and stuff, is that in meat and stuff at all? Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary for life, for life of a human being, and they get none of it.
Got it. Okay, so they have to supplement that.
Yeah, better injection than oral.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat it in steak, but for some reason, it doesn't really absorb in most supplements.
Okay.
So,
actually, what my doctor does sometimes for me, I'm just curious if you ever heard of this. They call it a lava shot. So when I get my TRT shot, sometimes they'll put some vitamin B in it too.
Yeah, B12, right.
Yeah. And then I feel like I can notice a difference with a higher dose of B vitamin or B12. It's like a little bit more energy, uppity, a little bit more clear.
Yep.
I'd say. So, yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, what I want to do, just because we're getting a little bit over on time, I want to leave the floor to you. And like, if there's anything we didn't cover, please share. And then also, where can people stay in contact with you? I know Instagram's a big platform for you, and then website and anything else you want to share. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I think I hit on everything. Sort of address the whole, like, the book is a commercial. Like, no, it's really not. It's got full of very valuable information. Even if you don't like my face and you don't want to buy my product, read the book. Book will change your life. As far as finding me, I created a landing page because my last name is difficult to spell. So a lot of people guess it wrong. So, like, I mean, Jaquish, I could give you the history of the family name, and it'd be really boring. But basically, because my last name is hard to spell, I create a landing page. It's drj.com, DOCTOR, the letter J.com, and links to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all my products, the book. It's all right there on one page. I suggest, if you're going to follow me on one social medium, that it be Instagram. I like the platform more. I do more on Instagram than anything else.
Mm-hmm. That's perfect. And dude, thank you again for coming on.
Tyler, this is great.
Bye.